And we are underway. The king is talking to our three heroes, looking to find out first what is inside the starting treasure chests. And we're going to start off with the wings, as well as the herb and the obligatory magic key, which means they'll be able to keep that magic key as they can use the wings to get on out of here. And looking to see if there are any spells to get things started. And wow, that castle is in a lot of swamp. Mr. Holmes looking to navigate around the swamp as JJ and Ryu making their way back to the king. Looks like JJ is going to save, as is Ryu, and meanwhile, quickly to level 2 is Mr. Holmes. Looks like a power increase of 6, nice speed with 10, hit points of 4, and a new spell of Outside. And look at that, there's a town right there. Will he be able to make it, though? No, Mr. Holmes taking the death as the swamp a little too much there. I don't know if that was perhaps intentional. Meanwhile, we've got these Stones of Sunlight inside the treasury here, as well as some big bucks, Erdrick's Token, and Fairy Water. So already, just like that, things picking up here. Mr. Holmes, meanwhile, has found that other town, and it is coal. Let us see what is underneath the... Oh, there's nothing underneath the 4 steps south of the baths. Things going very torrid pace here as Mr. Holmes makes his way. He sees another cave here and is going to slash at the slime. And wow, Poltergeist has hurt more. And that's going to send Mr. Holmes back to the castle. Meanwhile, the travel troubles of being in such a deep swamp, well, it certainly makes grinding around level 0 right there around the castle difficult, as with every step you're losing 2 hit points. JJ now working with a Magidrake. Meanwhile, Ryu pacing back and forth and taking intentional deaths along the way. Meanwhile, it looks like Mr. Holmes, almost at the same time as JJ, are both going to get to level 3. And wow, what a power boost of 22. And JJ, he makes his way into coal now. And Ryu's going to join the level 3 party. Well, interesting strategies early on as Ryu pacing about the swamp. Meanwhile, it looks like JJ is using the, I don't know, is it a pure spark over bridge if it's 2 spaces instead of 1? I don't know, only spark over would be able to tell for sure. Meanwhile, the COD counts are fast and fervent here, to say the least. Based on the scenario. Nobody with too early of an advantage, although Mr. Holmes finding an open plot of land and starting to explore. And we have found that the Druin has baby breath. But despite that, Mr. Holmes able to take him out and advances to level 4 with 12 hit points and the spell of Radiant. And now JJ making his way up to level 4. Oh, and Mr. Holmes has found out that the Warlock has Dragon Lord Breath. That's going to send him back to start. Well, Ryu now making his way into Cole. It seems like that's the almost the added insult to injury of dying. Is not only do you have to get sent back to the castle, not only do you lose half your gold, but then on top of it, you have to slog through probably a good 9 or 10 swamp marsh spaces just to get out of there. So you're already down about 20 hit points or so. And Ryu taking a long look at the weapon shop and armor shop and opting against it. JJ, meanwhile, grinding along the Sparkover desert section there. JJ taking out a magician. He's only 6 experience away from level 5, with the slight experience advantage over Mr. Holmes and Ryu. Wow, and Warlocks have heal more. That is a devastating combination. Warlocks having both heal more and the Dragon Lord Breath. And JJ Schmidt dispensing of a red slime. He's going to go up to level 5 with a boost of 2 strength, 10 hit points. This is very high in the hit point column early on here. Ryu taking another death. Meanwhile, Mr. Holmes dispatching of a Drakey. JJ Schmidt getting into some exploration to the northwest corridor here. Running into a Druin Lord. Mr. Holmes, meanwhile, slogging out once again of the swamp around Tantagel. Could do a whole seed just about the different pronunciations and whatnot, but probably for the better that doesn't occur. JJ Schmidt, meanwhile, sent back to the castle with another death. Star Wyvern dispatching him there. Ryu, meanwhile, trying to get away and not able to get away from the Armored Knight, affectionately known as the AK-47. Well, JJ Schmidt taking a bit of a different approach here, going to go to the back of Tantagel Castle and get a magic key. Cave is to encounter, and it's a free shot at a treasure chest, and we will certainly see what is brought about here. And it's a torch. Well, at least now they know. So back to the castle. Meanwhile, it looks like Mr. Holmes in Cole purchasing some herbs. Bit of a rough seed to start here early on. Effective in one sense, but also Hard to come about in another. Well, JJ finally going in and getting the gold and all the contents in the treasury, the Stones of Sunlight, the Fairy Water, and Erdrick's token. So already a couple of the fetch quest items out of the way, and meanwhile, almost in stereo deaths to Star Wyverns, down go Ryu and Mr. Holmes. And now armed with keys, JJ makes his way out. And already in a little bit of trouble as he makes his way through to the swamp. But will not have enough energy or enough hit points to make it all the way through, and right back to the castle you go. Meanwhile, Mr. Holmes has taken the ever so slight experience advantage. And JJ going back in to the treasury for another set of big bucks there. Hoping to get over to the town to utilize that at the weapon and armor shop in Cole. Meanwhile, we've got a stone man with Mr. Holmes casting Hurt. Mr. Holmes trying to get away, and the attack sends him back. Meanwhile, JJ Schmidt purchasing a bamboo pole and a chainmail and the small shield. So a little bit of an armored advantage, as meanwhile an ambush by the Star Wyvern sends Ryu back once again. All three players so far very evenly along, although Mr. Holmes and JJ Schmidt both at level 5. Ryu not too far behind. He only needs 7 more experience to match them at level 5. But a Warlock might be a bit much to be able to do that. Yeah, the early challenge that all three of the players have is trying to figure out some semblance of healing, as the only spells they have so far are Outside and... oh, wow. Outside and Radiant, and meanwhile, JJ and Ryu dealing with dual deaths to Poltergeist, courtesy of the Hurtmore. Meanwhile, the Blue Dragon sending Mr. Holmes back to the sin bin. It seems like the early exploration has been hindered with the inability to heal and just this giant swamp marsh surrounding not only the castle, but a lot of the area not too far. Ryu taking a bit of a stance of just kind of grinding in the plain fields there, which it doesn't exactly behoove him to do so circling the town, in that particular stretch of land has a lower percentage of encounters than others, like the desert there. Now he's making his way over to there. Meanwhile, the Warlock using the Dragonlord Breath to send JJ back. Mr. Holmes, meanwhile, is doing more grinding in the desert. Oh, wow. And another hurt more for J.J. Schmidt. This is a very, very troubling start early on here, to say the least. And Mr. Holmes getting to level 6. And oh, we've got hurt more. Business is about to pick up with that. With that hurt more spell, you'll be able to use that to take on enemies considerably stronger than yourself, at least at the current levels that the 3 players are at. And that'll allow them to level up much more quickly, get stronger, be able to explore more, and really pick up the pace after what has been a rough 15 minutes so far early on in this seed. And you can see with Mr. Holmes already just being able to use hurt more, and just like that, already almost doubling his experience and pretty quickly making his way. He's only about 30 experience away, 35 away from level 7. Ryu emerging from the penalty box after another death here, and JJ encountering a wizard, and oh, that may not work out. So, oh wow, he was able to get away. But again, that limited amount of hit points. Meanwhile, Mr. Holmes up to level 7, 30 hit points gained on that level. Wow. I said things were going to pick up quickly, and that certainly will help things out considerably, as not only the gaining of hurt more, but then that extra 30 hit points, it gives you the chance to take damage if, let's say, that hurt more doesn't quite take out an enemy like an Axe Knight or like a Green Dragon, for example. Ryu looking to explore to the north a little bit, but in some hit point trouble. And again, with no heal spells, I mean, if you don't have any herbs on you, you're just sometimes literally and sometimes figuratively playing with fire. So we've got JJ Schmidt working on a Druin, closing in. He's about 26 experience now, actually only a little less than 20 experience away from level 6 and getting that crucial hurt more. Meanwhile, a wizard takes out Ryu once again. COD is definitely on the menu here on this New Year's Day, without question. And now here comes that crucial level 6 for JJ, and he's going to be happy to look in that spell inventory and see Hurt More as well as Repel, which I kind of missed in the excitement of seeing Hurt More. Repel also very crucial to the different runners, as that will allow them to not have to necessarily face enemies that are weaker than them. So that gives almost a little bit greater selection of, in terms of randomness of who they're able to face and be able to benefit a little bit more. Mr. Holmes now back at the king, saving. And Ryu, meanwhile, it looks like he's found another town. Is he going to be able to get there, though? Well, he realizes the dilemma. I don't think he has any herbs, and he knows that he's more than 4 steps away from the town in that swamp marsh. He's going to have to wait till he heals up to be able to get back there. Mr. Holmes now going to the back of Tanagel to buy more keys. J.J. Schmidt, meanwhile, stocking up on herbs. And Ryu clinging to life, but also trying to get as much exploration in as he can, given his inability to heal. And we got a metal slime. This could be a way to certainly kick things into high gear, but after 1 hit point, he runs away. And the skeleton says, "Enough of your exploration, Ryu. Back to the castle you go." Oh, meanwhile, up in JJ's end, it looks like he's discovered the location of Charlotte Castle as well as another cave. Kind of checking it out here in the dark, and after using a torch, we'll see what exactly that location is after dealing with this Wolf Lord. Oh, and it looks to be the grave of Garen. So he's going to head on up here and take the 3 treasure chests that are accessible at the moment without a key. And we've got an herb, a dragon scale, and the wings. Not one of the major items, but certainly still something a little bit helpful. Kind of hard to say at the moment who has the exact advantage. I mean, in terms of items, everybody pretty much even. I mean, Mr. Holmes jumping out to a fairly significant experience lead, but hasn't done much in terms of exploration, at least yet. But now with the Hurtmore, able to do so, and another magic key for JJ down in the grave of Garanham. Oh, and another AK-47. Will Mr. Holmes be able to get away? Yes, he does. Meanwhile, JJ finding out that Wraiths have a devastating combination of sleep and Hurtmore. And Mr. Holmes and Ryu going down to a blue dragon and the armored knight, respectively. Meanwhile, it looks like JJ able to utilize the grave to get his gold grind on. How that works for those unfamiliar with the game is that the memory of Dragon Warrior, it ends up that it only keeps track of up to 8 treasure chests disappearing. The 3 that are in the starting room, that automatically always disappear, because that way you would otherwise be able to reutilize those over and over again. So there's those 3, plus the 3 that were opened prior to dying in the grave of Garanham, as well as the couple in the treasure room there in the treasury of the Tangential Castle. So once you reach that 9th chest, the game doesn't know what to do with the memory of the treasure chest, so it just leaves it there for you to be able to open over and over and over again. So JJ utilizing that, opting not to save, which I think is rather bold, because a death could just wipe half of that right away. Next thing you know, he's down to under 10 grand. Meanwhile, Mr. Holmes gets ambushed by a wizard and sent back to the start. And JJ upgrading the gear to a half plate, as well as the silver shield, the strongest shield in the game. That adds 20 points to your defense. And will be very significant, especially in the later part of the game, as every one of those defensive points is crucial for being able to outlast some of those stronger enemies. Meanwhile, Ryu has found Cantlin. And is, looks like just browsing. JJ getting up to level 7 and seeing that huge boost in hit points. Now thinking of what to do here with the blue dragon, and wow, the JJ's hurt more, not quite effective, but the blue dragons certainly was not known for casting hurt, and they have heal. Wow. Despite that, JJ able to dispatch of it. And werewolves apparently have heal more. And hurt more. Unbelievable. That'll be something that you'll definitely want to have stop spell for coming up later here in the game. As meanwhile, Ryu makes his way to level 6. And Mr. Holmes has found Hawksness. The deserted town, he's going to head over to the shopkeeper area where there is a guardian enemy, one of the 6 toughest enemies in the game. If you're able to dispatch of it, well, you can search what's under there, and it could be, well, we already know that it's not the token, so it could be the fairy flute, it could be Erdrick's armor, the strongest armor in the game, and an axe knight. One of the easiest enemies to dispatch of, and you're definitely going to see a lot of gold grinding going on there, and Mr. Holmes not wasting any time and going right after him. Meanwhile, JJ dispatching of an armored knight, an AK-47, and he goes up to level 8. And we've got the Fun Police, the affectionately known as Fun Police, sending Ryu back to the start. The Red Dragon, the second, apart from the main boss, the Dragon Lord, the second toughest enemy in the game. And Mr. Holmes quickly going to level 10. So Mr. Holmes getting his grind on rather quickly. JJ, meanwhile, he's found Charlotte Castle. And Ryu doing some exploration to the north. And things not working out so well for Ryu encountering the fun police. JJ, meanwhile, at level 9, crossing over the 1,000 experience threshold, but Mr. Holmes quickly with an over 1,000 experience lead. And just dawning on me now because I missed it earlier, but Mr. Holmes finding in that Hawk's Nest spot Erdrick's armor, which is a huge advantage for him. And JJ taking care of a warlock with the affectionately known, let's hope I don't mess this up, Kaishin no Ichigeki. Yes, the excellent move. Mr. Holmes now checking out the mountain cave. Let's see what's down there. We've got an herb for the first of the 5 chests down there. JJ stocking up on herbs. And Ryu looks like he's going to make his way to level 7. Meanwhile, level 11 for Mr. Holmes, and Empty Eye must be loving that 0 hit point gain. And now Ryu making his way into the grave of Garen, and Mr. Holmes, well, not quite able to get all the way through the mountain cave as the AK-47 sends him back. But the advantage to that, Mr. Holmes able to set up a gold grind of his own. And the Blue Dragon dispatches JJ to the back with another casting of Hurtmore. This has been a rough go in terms of different enemies here early on as the AK-47 sends Ryu back to the penalty box. JJ continuing to get some exploration into the northwest. Meanwhile, Mr. Holmes, gold grinding to over 23,000. I know he's got the silver shield in mind. I wonder if there was something else that he saw along the way here. One item that has so far eluded all three players, one of the things that they're looking around for is the silver harp, which they're then going to find a cave to trade that into an old man who will give them the Staff of Rain, and that, along with the Stones of Sunlight and the Erdrick's token that they already all have, will enable them to get the rainbow drop they can use to cross over into Charlotte Castle and challenge the Dragon Lord. Certainly a ways to go to do that, as now Ryu working on a gold grind. Meanwhile, another 120 experience for Mr. Holmes as he's able to take care of a wizard. Much easier done when you've got the Erdrick's armor, the strongest armor in the game. I mean, so many things. As you see, he's able to walk over those swamp and marshes without taking any damage. Same thing with the affectionately known as glass tiles that you'll see that normally take away 15 hit points per step. Plus, every step that you walk while wearing Erdrick's armor, you get an additional hit point earned back. Plus, it reduces damage to Dragon Lord Breath, as well as the other Fire Breath, or Baby Breath as it's known here, as well as the castings of Hurt or Hurt Roar. So it's very, very advantageous to have that without question, as JJ now makes his way up to level 10. And Mr. Holmes, he is in Cantlin, and he's going to do a little more shopping here. Getting the Flame Sword. Huge upgrade from the bamboo pole. It's an extra 26 attack power. The only weapon stronger than the Flame Sword is Erdrick's Sword, which they're also going to be trying to look around for as they're looking for the items to complete things here. And Ryu, meanwhile, I was going to say, is he going to stop gold grinding at some point? But he's up to over 34,000 gold. Definitely has something in mind. Meanwhile, JJ buying some more magic keys in Cantlin. And heading over to the inn to high-five Mr. Holmes. No, not quite. Just passing by. Well, instead, they, in tandem, go to the same shop. There's a special on herbs at the moment. Game Boy in chat, he's rooting for the Dragon Lord. Well, so far the Dragon Lord's minions have certainly done a good job thus far as your rooting efforts there, Game Boy. Meanwhile, JJ looking for the coordinates and not finding any. So at least that's, as damaging as that is, it's certainly good in terms of information, as he knows that there's nothing on the overworld. Holmes now heading in a westerly direction. Ryu sticking around at the Coal Inn. And JJ doing some more shopping in Cantlin. Oh, Game Boy. No princess saving today, sorry, he says. Well, time will tell on that. Although an NPC, a non-playable character, giving Ryu a little bit of trouble there in coal as he makes his way to the item shop. And Mr. Holmes, just about 180 experience away from hitting level 12 already. The combination of that Flame Sword and Erdrick's armor and Hurt More certainly playing a factor, and JJ has found Garanham, looking for the 3 treasures in there. Meanwhile, Mr. Holmes has found the Erdrick sword in the Stones of Sunlight Cave. Meanwhile, I see the fairy flute in Garanham. I missed the first chest. And the fighter's ring. And meanwhile, in the basement, it looks like we have Swamp Cave South, which JJ casts outside to get to the other side of it, and it leads to another part of the map. And Mr. Holmes, meanwhile, has found another town, and that is the location of Garanham. So opens the door, stays at the inn. Meanwhile, Ryu picking up the flame sword. And there we have the torch, along with the fighter's ring and the fairy flute for Mr. Holmes. We're about 42 minutes in here, and Mr. Holmes looking to, so far, have the clear advantage, already finding Erdrick's sword as well as Erdrick's armor. I mean, he's equipped and ready to go. He's got the lead in terms of experience. DW edit, very good. Go black screen, you've got this. Well, that's pretty much me here in terms of commentary. That's my screen there. So we'll see how that goes here. Meanwhile, the 155 there sending Mr. Holmes to level 12 with modest stats, although the 14 magic points good, and also getting heal more. And Mr. Holmes able to dispatch and dispense of the fun police as he makes his way to a cave here, which is the Staff of Rain Cave. However, they got to have the silver harp to be able to trade into him, and that has yet to have been found. Now JJ getting a nice power boost on level 11. Ryu, meanwhile, is at level 8. There's always that interesting part of a particular seed or run, the exploration, trying to debate whether, when's a good time to move into a particular area, what enemies there are, and Ryu getting himself back into this, finding Erdrick's sword. And JJ with another death. And this is Mr. Holmes finding Six Town. Yes, he has found Breckenary. And I know I'm the only one excited about that. What can I say? Everybody's got their quirks. Mine is I actually like Breckenary. I'm sure hate mail will be coming my way shortly about that. And not too far, there's Rimuldar, or Rimuldar, tucked away. And Mr. Holmes making a beeline for the 2 doors that hold a treasure chest, and we'll see if this perhaps is the silver harp, but it's some more gold. Although with all the major shopping points done, at least for Mr. Holmes, it just allows him for a little bit more key money, perhaps. Game Boy noting in chat that Mr. Holmes has 125 attack power already. He certainly is close to taking on the Dragon Lord, but first you got to find all the pieces to get in there. Ryu now putting Erdrick's sword to good use as he goes up a level. Meanwhile, a Kaishin no Ichigeki from JJ Schmidt on the Wizard. And JJ heading to his southwest, back to Cantlin. Mr. Holmes, meanwhile, combing the desert, trying to find the last bits and pieces to be able to get into Charlotte Castle. And at least in that part of the desert, well, if you saw Spaceballs, I think you might know where what exactly he found there, or didn't find. Now, Mr. Holmes in the grave. I know that we found 4 out of the 5 treasures in Garen's grave, not quite making it all the way to the bottom. Could it possibly be that deep into the Silver Harp area, could it be a vanilla find of the Silver Harp? If it is, I'm sure people will have some words for McGrew about that. 3 words, at least. Meanwhile, Ryu has found Hawksness and has found the Axe Knight guarding Erdrick's armor, and he's got it, and he's getting a little bit of a grind on. Oh, wow, but the Axe Knight has Dragon Lord breath. And now JJ with Erdrick's sword. Mr. Holmes, meanwhile, finding the deadly 1-2 combo of Sleep and Hurtmore. In his case, almost deadly. However, JJ, well, he found that deadly thing that we all call the fun police. Do not pass go, do not collect half your gold, and back to Tanagle you go. Ryu going up another level in the interim, and so too does Mr. Holmes. He's on to 13. Power boost of 3, response of 3, magic points of 3, and hit points 11. Just to break up the monotony. Oh, Game Boy, you're killing me here. Holmes should prepare for ludicrous speed. Yes. Meanwhile, I'm watching out for the bleeps, the sweeps, and the creeps. And Melee Wizard, you are correct. We already have vanilla armor, so the complaint's already apparently going to McGrew. Meanwhile, Ryu back into the mountain cave. A couple of other chests we haven't had the chance to see until now. So we've got an herb and some big bucks. And an AK-47. And Mr. Holmes must have hit ludicrous speed because I didn't get to see what was at the bottom of the Garen's grave. Meanwhile, Ryu just a little further to go, and we'll find out about that last mountain cave chest. And it's the silver harp. And thank you, chat. Big bucks found at the bottom of Garen's grave. At least in terms of Mr. Holmes' quest, that's more of a whammy than anything else. And Mr. Holmes has found the mountain cave. JJ, meanwhile, in some pretty deep trouble here with a blue dragon, but able to hang on and get 180 experience for his very troublesome troubles. JJ working on his exploration and finding a stone man with hurt. Ryu working on a droll magi, as he's about 250 away from another level. And Mr. Holmes just carving up a wolf lord. Not quite as easy to carve up the armored knight, though. Well, if you're going just by experience, it pretty much tells the tale of 1, 2, and 3, but there's also a little bit of exploration in there, which at this point you probably could give the advantage to Mr. Holmes. Or at least you definitely can in, about 3 seconds here as he gets the silver harp. Okay, maybe 5 seconds as he trades away the fairy water to obtain it. Had to account for that whole your bag is full thing. Meanwhile, JJ making his way up to level 13. But he's still trying to get some exploration and escapes the Red Dragon, the fun police, to get into Garenham. Ryu, meanwhile, getting his grind on to try to catch up a little bit here in terms of experience, as Mr. Holmes is about a little less than 100 experience away from level 14. Ryu, meanwhile, well, he was heading somewhere with a purpose until that rogue scorpion, a couple of them, got in the way. Meanwhile, Mr. Holmes has just hit level 14. Let's see what comes along with it. 5 power, 1 response speed, 11 hit points, and 13 magic points. I haven't looked at all the statistics. I'm sure Game Boy is the master number cruncher when it comes to that. He'd probably have that better than I certainly could here. But I would imagine it's looking pretty close, and the AK-47 sending Mr. Holmes back home to Tanagal. And Game Boy confirming in chat, Holmes is probably in go mode. Which I don't know. Is that anything like beast mode in football? I don't know. That's why I'd rather commentate this. It's a lot warmer than what's going on with football out there today. That's for sure. JJ's still working on exploration. He's found a couple of towns here, including Rimeldar. I'm sure no matter which way I say it, I'm going to be putting the emphasis on the wrong syllable for somebody. JJ re-upping his keys as we have crossed the 1 hour mark here in this seed on this Randomania restream. Thank you for tuning in here on this New Year's Day night, or New Year's night, however you want to refer to it. I'm Ferran Burgundy. We've got JJ Schmidt 77, Ryu Seishin, and Mr. Holmes all battling it out. So far, I would say Holmes has a slight lead here. JJ Schmidt thinking very long before deciding what to do with the Fun Police. And he's going to go toe-to-toe with it. Oh, he had 37 hit points, and the Red Dragon struck for 37, and JJ going back to Tanagle Castle. Ryu now has made his way into Garenham and finds the Fairy Flute, as well as the Fighter's Ring. So in terms of exploration items, everybody at this point even. They've all, or just about even, I should say. JJ's still looking for that silver harp, but Ryu has it, as does Mr. Holmes. And Holmes now probably either trying to remember or trying to seek, because I forget if he got there earlier, where the Staff of Rain cave is. Ryu now making his way through the swamp cave and finds the AK-47. I don't know if he's looking for that to see about grinding. I don't believe that... I'm trying to remember if he went to Cantlin and found out that there weren't any coordinates, so there's no need to necessarily get Princess Gwaelin here, or maybe he's just using it to gain some quick experience here as he now makes his way to level 12. He'll be happy to see Healmore. Yeah, just making his way through, seeing if that might be a possible grind spot, but I think your best bet might be to go back to Hawksness and... Oh, but yeah, the Axe Knight has the Dragon Lord 2 breath, so I can see the... at least trying to see if the grass is greener on the other side. And Holmes has found the Staff Cave. He's going to trade in that Silver Harp and get the Staff of Rain. And following him in is Ryu, who's going to do the same thing. So both Mr. Holmes and Ryu acquiring the Staff of Rain, and just that quickly, Holmes over to the Rainbow Drop Cave, affectionately known as the Jerk Cave. Because if you don't have all the items, he kicks you out. So just like that, Mr. Holmes has the Rainbow Drop. And JJ just now finding Hawk's Nest. Meanwhile, Mr. Holmes making a beeline for Charlotte Castle. And encountering nary an enemy on the way there, and 65 minutes in, the first Rainbow Drop has been held aloft. And 2 steps in, he finds the Fun Police. What a welcoming committee. JJ, meanwhile, doing a little cave spelunking, and I believe finds the mountain cave. Ryu working on that AK-47. And that he has chosen to be his grind spot. But like the hit song from the late 70s, it might be too much, too little, too late. As he's just one more of those armored knights away from hitting level 13, but Mr. Holmes already in the first basement of Sherlock Castle. And Mr. Holmes finding out that the werewolves have heal more. And politely saying, all right, I'm just going to run away and keep on moving down. JJ, meanwhile, finding his fair share of fun police in the mountain cave. And Ryu getting ambushed by a ghost. Not something often seen when you're at level 13. Now in the third basement of Sherlock, we've got stone men, which have hurt, making it fairly easy to attack. It looks like they're casting it often. And a Kaishi no Ichigeki from Mr. Holmes. Ryu now back into the back end of Garenham. Going back to the, not quite the, I guess, easiest to access grind spot. I guess that's the one challenge or drawback to it, is having to go walk out of the cave, make your way through to the end, use another key in this case, go back into the cave, lather, rinse, repeat. But I guess the trade-off to that is going to Hawk's Nest, getting hit for 42 to 48 damage by the Dragonlord Breath of the Axe Knight, and having to deal with the potential deaths more often than not. So it's an interesting trade-off. There's pros and cons to each. Meanwhile, Mr. Holmes already on the final floor of Sherlock. As alluded to earlier, I guess that was ludicrous speed that got him down there. The question is, has the floor gone plaid? And the mini-boss before the Dragon Lord is an AK-47. As we have crossed the 70-minute mark here in this seed. And very quickly dispatching of it. So here we go. Mr. Holmes about to go after the Dragon Lord. You can see he's holding B so that way he doesn't accidentally say yes. And he is told, "Thou art a fool," and here we go. An ambush stop spell of no effect, and wow, two quick strikes, and that's it. And we're on to Dragon Lord Part 2. Oh, is that a triple attack to start things off? Holmes working so quickly, I can't even keep adding up here. My goodness. Already up into probably close to 80 here. Gets a low roll there of 14. And going for a hurt more? And there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Get out your GGs for Mr. Holmes. In fairly quick work, dispatching of the Dragon Lord. He's about to make his way back to Tentacle Castle to get the accolades from the king. And he has done it here in 1 hour, 12 minutes, and 29 seconds. Looks like the official SRL time is going to be 72 minutes and 38 seconds as I make my way over to SRL. We've got the GGs going along the way here, and we'll see if we can have a quick post-game chat here with Mr. Holmes in just a moment. Meanwhile, Ryu and, JJ about to hold the Rainbow Drop aloft and make his way into Charlotte Castle. All right, Mr. Holmes is wrapping up his stream, and he'll be joining us for a quick chat as JJ makes his way into Charlock.
Hello? Hello?
And it looks like we have Mr. Holmes in here. Mr. Holmes, good game.
You can hear me all right?
Technology being what it is, especially, technology is my fun police. I'm having a little trouble hearing you. Hopefully you're able to hear me here.
I can hear you loud and clear. Just let me know if you can't hear me, and I'll try and change it.
No, I got you here. It's clear, but not necessarily loud. But yeah, good job on the race there. 72 minutes, really well done. A lot of rough going early on, as far as enemies just seeming to have a bunch of them certainly haven't hurt more. I noticed as I was taking my notes here.
I felt very fortunate to kill a magician on my first venture upon seeing the swamp and thinking, man, seed. So I was like, okay, we're fine. It's all good. And then I'm not sure if people noticed, but so we started with wings. And I kind of forgot about that for like 15 minutes when I could have bought keys much, much earlier. But those things happen. I was just so mesmerized by the difficult start. Like, hey, I can get keys now.
Yeah, wow. I will admit that did kind of skate by me as well. But this is also the first time for me doing solo commentary, let alone with not 2 but 3 people. So there was certainly a lot that skated by me during this.
Sure. Myself very lucky, given that I forgot this, that there wasn't a gold grind that was immediately available. Then I would have suffered a much bigger detriment, and I was very relieved to see that that wasn't possible.
Well, true. The various caves that could have set up a gold grind were certainly pretty far away. But then even getting to those caves, there were just so many monsters with so many different... you had warlocks with both Dragon Lord Breath and Heal More. You had a werewolf with Hurt More and Heal More. Just so many different things that were just so many different obstacles to even get to that point to set up a gold grind.
I was actually thinking about something interesting. I'm not sure if you talk much about the gold grind or just that it's a glitch. I got the one chest in the mountain cave on the top floor, and I was thinking to myself, if I die, I'll do a gold glitch. You would have to go into the tablet cave in the basement of the starting castle, walk or go all the way back out, then open the 4 chests, opening the gold one last. Could have done a gold grind, but thankfully I got 3 of the 4 other chests. But I was pretty upset to find the one I missed was the silver harp.
Well, that was the last item that everybody was having trouble finding. So that was that wasn't just you on that. That was elusive to everyone.
Or if I didn't die in the 10 steps before that chest, I would have never even gone into Garen's grave. I would have had no need. So there's, from a time perspective, just it's funny how stuff like that works. Like you play the odds when you're blind in a run. It's like there's 5 chests in there, and there's 1 in the mountain cave. So you go for the one with all the chests, and like I got the unlucky 1 out of 6 this time.
Well, I mean, with everything, sometimes you play the percentages, and it doesn't. Those percentages don't go in your favor. That's why most people bet when rolling the dice. They bet on 7 and not 12.
For sure.
And it looks like GG to JJ as he's just about wrapping up. Meanwhile, Ryu is taking on the Dragon Lord as we speak here.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see. In my head, I knew level 14 is possible to win. JJ is on level 15. But it would be a pretty close fight. And not knowing what's in Charlock, you don't know if you're going to have to use any magic on the way down. Okay, I'm going to level on the way down. If I happen to make it all the way down and I still haven't leveled, I would have been comfortable fighting at 14. And so I'm hoping that Ryu validates that thought. Barely works in your favor in that one, I think.
Well, I do see that Ryu's at 14 and coming close to the end here, and so too will our coverage, as I've been informed that we're getting ready for a Zelda 1 randomizer stream that's set to start in about 5 minutes from now here.
Yeah, it should be over within 30 seconds. Oh, there we go. With a
funny how these things work out.
Timing, eh? Well, thanks very much for doing the commentary. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you. It's the first time going solo here, and even with broadcast experience, doing solo commentary is certainly a challenge. As JJ Schmidt finishes up in 81 minutes and 7 seconds, and Ryu in 82:25. So very close. Good game to all three, and I want to thank you, Mr. Holmes, for joining us here. JJ just popping in here. We've got maybe about a minute here, I think. I don't know. Narastra is going to yell at me if I go too far along here.
Well, I will head out, so I'll leave you to that quick chat if you have it. And thanks again. Give everyone in the race a follow. They're all awesome streams, and take care.
Well, thank you, Mr. Holmes. And I'm told that we are going to wrap things up here, but good game to all three here, to JJ Schmidt 77, as well as Mr. Holmes, our victor here, and Ryu, who's just finishing up as well. And also thanks to Narastra for providing the restream here and getting all the things together here. Thanks to the folks all in the chat there for helping keep me as honest and up to speed as I can. And appreciate you tuning into this New Year's Day Dragon Warrior Randomizer. So I believe we've got another restream coming up 2 weeks from now on the 15th, from what I was told. More information should be coming up about that at some point here. Definitely want to check out twitch.tv/Randomania for all the info on that. And for Narastra, for our runners, make sure to follow them. I'm Ferran Burgundy saying until next time, may your moves be excellent and your seeds stay classy. Good night, everyone.